like to tag this text, treating the one.
All right.
So this is, in case you haven't picked up on it yet, these last 3 weeks we've been focusing on what to do with the one. First we learned how to reach the one. Then last week we learned how to keep the one. And now this week we're learning how to treat the one.
All right.
And I'm still working, well, I should say God is still working with me on developing a plan on next year, because this will be something that we go into a little more in depth in our growth movement is not only learning how to reach the one, but we got to know how to keep them once we reach them. And then once we keep them, we got to learn how to treat them. Because I've been on this road long enough to know that you can't treat people any old kind of way and expect them to stay.
All right.
So we got to learn how to reach them, how to keep them, and then how to treat them.
All right.
So let's look at the Bible, and the Word of God is Jesus is telling this parable. I guess you can say it's a parable of the Good Samaritan. And as we've already discussed and explained, that it makes it even worse, and we'll deal with this in a few minutes, but it makes it even worse that the Samaritan is the one who treated him good.
All right.
Now, for those who don't understand that, just give me a few minutes and we'll get into it. But Jesus says in verse 30, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves who stripped him of his clothing, wounded him, departed, and left him half dead. Like I said, this is mainly focusing on how to treat the one. And if anybody knows anything about life, that sometimes life can beat you down.
Oh, yes.
In fact, not only life, but a week can beat you down. Come on.
All right.
Not only a week, but a day can beat you down.
All right.
And I will say this, my wife and I, we have certain things that we've already agreed on that we've never even spoken about. One of the things that we agreed on, never even spoke about, never had a conversation about it. But one of the things that we've always said is I can't go to work and get beat up and jumped on and come home and have to fight also.
All right.
Some got to give. But it's one of those things as life has beat this man up. Let's just suffice it to say he had a rough day. He was on his way from Jerusalem to Jericho, minding his own business, wasn't bothering nobody. I can imagine he as he's going on his way, he whistling the Andy Griffith thing. I mean, he just minding his own business, and all of a sudden trouble comes. Which is a point to let us know that you ain't always got to be doing something wrong for trouble to come knocking on your door. Now, you are more apt to get into trouble when you are doing something you ain't got no business doing. But I will say that trouble is not racist. Trouble does not discriminate. And trouble is not sexist. Trouble will find you wherever you may be, whoever you may be, wherever you may be.
All right.
It don't matter what race you are, what you believe in, what trouble will find you. And this man, just going about his business, and just had a bad day.
All right.
Look at this. He was on his way to Jerusalem, from Jerusalem to Jericho, and one thing that we have to know about the ancient Middle East is that when you get outside of populated cities, that there are a lot of caves and caverns, and it's a lot of twists and turns and things like that, and mountains and stuff. And so there was a lot of times when whenever people traveled, they normally didn't travel by themselves, especially when it got dark, because there was too many places to where people could be hiding, and thieves and robbers could be to just jump out of places. And so that is also one of the reasons why David says in the 23rd Psalm is, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Because it's one of those things that there's like I said, there's different caves and mountains, and you twist and turns. And so especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere and it gets dark, that's a different type of dark than what we see in a metropolitan area. But it's one of those things is when it gets dark that there's, even in the nighttime, even in the daytime, there's still so many, there's corners and all of these different hiding places, and you can't really see around corners and all of these different things, so you don't know where somebody may be hiding at.
All right.
So the man, he's on his way, he's traveling, he's minding his own business, and all of a sudden, trouble finds him.
Oh, yeah.
He fell among thieves. They took his clothes, and they beat him, and then they left, leaving him half dead. We've seen this before. I remember several times back when a certain pair of shoes would come out. Some people would get them, some people wouldn't. But the people who did get them sometimes didn't have them very long because somebody would steal them. And I can remember, I can remember that when Sony released the first PlayStation, I got off from work and I went to the mall, and I was able to get in the lottery to purchase one of the PlayStations, and I mean, you talking about a line was all out the building, and they only had about 8 of them, and so we all of course drew numbers, and luckily, I don't know how, my number was drawn. And so I go to the register and I pay for it. And the thing was so rare and everything was so new at this time and there were already been a lot of threats and everything about people who didn't get it, they were going to do this and they were going to do that. So there was police at the mall, inside the store, to make sure that nothing happened. And then because my number was called, I had a police escort walk me from the sales floor to the back office so that I could pay for it. Then I had armed police officers, these are Fort Worth police, walking me from the store to my car. And then one officer stood there with me, and the other officer went to get the car, drove up to my car. I got in my car, the officer got in the police car, and they made me give them my address, and they made sure that I got home safely.
All right.
That I actually had a police escort to get home because people were so apt and prone to try to steal what I had.
All right.
I can't say the same for this man here, who was just on his way from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell amongst thieves because somebody felt like they liked what he had but didn't want to go to work to get what he had.
All right.
Stripped him of all of his clothing. And if that wasn't bad enough, since they stripped him of all his clothes, they took all his clothes, and then they beat him. a fight to get the stuff that we wanted, and he put up a fight, and it was just a fight, and he just lost. No, if I can say it this way, they made good on all the promises that we were told. I was told several times by my parents that I was going to be, if I did whatever it was one more time, they were going to beat me within an inch of my life. Luckily, I didn't do it again. But this man was beat off, and it says that he was half dead. But here's the thing. As we move on, 31 says, now by chance a certain priest came down the road. And when he saw him, he got on the other side of the road. That it's a sad occasion when the person that you need the most comes by and sees you in a bad way and avoids you. Look at this. The person that I needed the most, the person who represents God, sees that I'm in a bad way. And instead of you could have even faked, like we talked about this morning, you could have even said you were going to pray for me. But I didn't even get that. That you saw that I was in a bad place, in a bad way. And you continued on about your business like I wasn't even there.
All right.
The person who represents God. Here's the thing. You see, you have a priest who came by and saw him and walked by. The priest didn't even banish him to hell. Just walked by him like he wasn't even there. The Levites, at least the priest got on the other side to try to avoid eye contact. You know how we do. We don't want to talk to somebody. We'll go all out of our way just to avoid them.
All right.
That's what the priest goes all out the way. The Levites walks right beside him. I can imagine kept on, walked right beside him, looked down at him, and then probably looked back at him as he kept walking. And it says now this Samaritan saw him, had compassion. Now, as I said when we were talking about the Samaritans were, if you know anything about the history of the Jews and read the Old Testament, you'll see that the Jews and the Samaritans didn't get along. Well, I guess I can say it this way. The Jews basically didn't like the Samaritans. This all starts when you get into Kings and everything, when there's a whole bunch of different intermingling and going on. And the Samaritans are a crossbreed between Samaria and the Jews. And the Jews looked at them as they were second-class citizens and from a third world country because they were not a pure Jew. And they felt like that the Jews had this bad, that they felt like because they were God's chosen people, that they could do no wrong and that they could do whatever they wanted to do and God would still love them. Yes, that is true. God still loves us amid our mistakes, but at the same time, there is a consequence to our actions. So the Jews felt like that, hey, we are God's chosen. We can do whatever we want to do. We don't really have to obey everything God says because we're His chosen. He's going to forgive us anyway. And what happened is when they took on that mentality and that mindset, that they begin to think of themselves more highly than they should. And they begin to try to look down at the Samaritans and all of these different things. And so isn't it ironic and strange, and it's actually sad that the Samaritan, the one who was looked at as being an outsider, the one who was looked at as a pagan, as an idol, who worshiped other gods and all of this, is the one who stopped and helped.
All right.
Amen. Yep.
I'll say it like this way. It's a sad indictment on the church when people outside the church have more compassion than people inside the church.
All right.
Amen.
The ones who are supposed to be Christ-like are so busy trying to keep up this facade that I am Christ-like
Yeah.
that I can't even help somebody who is hurting that's sitting right beside me.
All right. Amen.
We have to get out of this notion of acting
Yes.
and trying to do something for show and trying to fill a part and fill a role.
Yeah.
Look at this. The priest came by, walked by. The Levite came by, walked by. Now the Samaritan is the one who saw him and had compassion. And this is how we treat. This is how we, so the lesson in how we treat others. Look at this. Look at what the Samaritan did. Verse 34. So he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine, and he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him.
All right.
Now, son, here's the goal. That when we get the one in, that we got to know how to treat them.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
That so what, they may be a little rough around the edges. We can't just throw people away because they don't look like we look. They don't dress like we dress. They may not have the perfume and the cologne that we wear. They may not even have on deodorant. But here's the thing. We got to show God's love. Because if it had not been for somebody else showing God's love to us when we were a little rough around the edges, when we were just coming into this, we wouldn't be here today.
All right.
And in fact, if it had not been for God, who picked us up, who turned us around,
Yes.
who stayed walking with us, kept his hand in our hand, kept his arm walking around with us, if he hadn't have done that when he did, that we would still be out lost, on our way to a devil's hell. But God.
Amen.
It says, so he went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine, set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. Look at this. This is how we treat the one. He never said, the Samaritan never says, if you had not have been doing what you were doing, you wouldn't have been in this position anyway.
All right.
The Samaritan never goes around and says, hey, man, you see that dude right there? He looking good, don't he? You know why he look good? Because just 24 hours ago, I saw him. He was on the side of the road, butt naked, and he didn't have nothing on. You know what I did? I bandaged his wounds. I took care of him. I paid for his food. He looking good. He looked forward on it. I paid for the food that he got.
Right.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
And that's how we supposed to treat somebody. That we're supposed to do whatever we can for somebody. Not to build ourselves up, but to build up God.
All right.
Because that is what showing godly love is. It's to see somebody hurting and to be able to lend a helping hand. And when a church lends a helping hand to somebody who you know cannot pay you back,
Right. Right.
that's what it calls and that's what it means of being a church of God.
Yes.
Because what God has done for us, we can never repay him back. So the only way that we can even try to attempt to repay him for what he has done for us is to do what he has done for us to somebody else.
Boy. Oh, yeah.
It says,
Right.
so he went to him. Look at this. He went to him and bandaged his wounds. This guy here had physical wounds. That's, to a degree, that's easy to do with physical wounds. It's easy to bandage a physical wound.
Yeah.
But we got to take it a step further.
All right.
And we got to bandage those unseen wounds.
Yeah.
That we have to be able to get to know one another. And not that I'm trying to be all in your business, but I just want to make sure that you're okay.
All right.
And so as we begin to develop that friendship and we have fellowship, and we begin to talk, that I can see and I can begin to see that you're hurting. I may not know why you're hurting the way that you're hurting. I may not know who caused it, but you know what? I see that there's a hurt right there. I see that I can see that when I begin to talk about my father, that you tend to kind of tense up. So that shows me that you may not have had a relationship with your father. Or I can understand that a father figure may be a touchy subject to you. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just begin to pray for you so you can let whatever that is go. So if you have some anger right there, if that's a hard subject, that you can let it go so that God can begin to feel that area right there. Oh, it may be something else about your childhood that whenever I talk about this, I can see you begin to tense up. So I begin to pray for that area right there so that when we begin to talk about it, you can release whatever it is that may be holding you. That's how we build the church.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
I had a conversation with the young lady at work. And she was telling me about her and her husband were going through some issues, and they wanted to do counseling, and it asked if I knew anybody. And I was like, no, I don't really know anybody. And I kind of asked a couple of questions, like, so hey, are you able to sit down and have a conversation with your husband? Well, I don't know, and I told him, like, it all starts with being able to create an environment to where you feel the other person feels safe with talking to you, because in a marriage relationship you should be able to talk to your spouse about anything.
Right.
And you got to build that trust up to where you know that the marriage is a safe place.
Right.
And when that is what it means by becoming one, to be able to talk about anything and be able to be honest with yourself and everybody else. Say, hey, I struggle right here, I'm weak right here, or even beginning to let down the walls and say, hey, this is the reason why I react the way I react when X, Y, and Z happens, is because this is what happened to me in my childhood, or this is what happened to me, this is what I've seen.
Okay.
But here's the problem, is when I mentioned that, she said, oh no, I can't do that. I can't let down the walls, and I can't tell him the things about the very core of me, because what if when we get into an argument, he uses that against me? Do you know how bad that would hurt?
All right.
And I had to begin to kind of teach and tell that there's boundaries. You know certain things that's off limits. You can't bring up. But as we begin to get closer to one another, we will know certain things that happen, and we'll begin to understand why I do what I do, the reason why I act the way that I act, the reason why I respond and react the way that I react. This Samaritan, he spent a little bit of time with him. And it says that he bandages the wounds. He says, look at this, pouring oil and wine. Here's the thing, that oil and wine, that's almost like vinegar. I'm sorry, not vinegar, but almost like alcohol.
Yeah.
It hurts. And I know it's only a few of us in here, but I remember this was one of the reasons why I learned how to cut hair myself. I remember my parents, when my mom would take me to the barbershop, I'd sit in the chair and get my hair cut, and then at the last few minutes, the last few things he would do is he would get that cotton swab, and dip in a little bit of alcohol and go around my edge. And if you cut me, you gonna feel it. And there was some times when I almost jumped up out of that chair. But the thing is in order to get better, you have to reveal the hurt. In order to get better, you gotta know where it hurts. And so in order to get better, I have to, and that's what he did. He poured the oil and the oil and the wine on them to heal the hurt. It may sting right now, but just know what's inside of this. It causes it to heal. But in order for it to heal, you gotta make sure you clean the cut. And that's what it does. And you know, I would always, even to this day, you give me, if I have the choice between alcohol or rubbing alcohol and peroxide, I ain't even got to say which one I would choose, because I'm pretty sure everybody would choose some peroxide.
Amen.
But here's the thing, is the rubbing alcohol, even though it hurts, it does an amazing job with disinfecting and cleaning the affected area. But so many times that we want to act like we're better when we've never really dealt with the problem. And so if we don't deal with what the root of the problem is, we'll never get better. But the thing is we want to hide behind the pain because we want to use the pain as a crutch. And what we'll say is, oh, I'm like this because X, Y, and Z did this to me. But we got to deal with certain things so that we can get better. This man here, this Samaritan, knew that pouring this oil and wine on him was going to hurt a little bit. But that little bit of hurt was going to be followed by the healing of the wound. And then it says he sat on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. On the next day, when he departed, he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper and said to him, take care of him, and whatever more you spend, when I come again, I will repay you. 2 denarii, I say this, 1 denarii is equal and equivalent to what they considered back then as a day's wage, or 1 day's pay. So this Samaritan took out 2 days worth of pay and gave it to the innkeeper and gave instructions to the innkeeper. Now remember, this Samaritan don't know who this dude is.
Right.
Gave it to the innkeeper and said, hey, here's enough money for food. If you need some more bandages, go to the store and get it. Here's some money for the room. Here's everything you need. I gotta go, I gotta take care of some business. But I'm coming back. And if you spend anything else, if this not enough to cover it, trust me on this one. Just cover it, and I'll pay you when I get back.
All right.
This is how God's love says to treat somebody. So if you see somebody in need and hurting, I heard this in a movie once, that how much do you have to hate a person to see them in need and not extend a hand? I mean, if you see somebody drowning and you are an Olympic swimmer, how much do you have to hate that person not to jump in and save them?
All right.
And so what was happening is this Samaritan saw this man hurting. for dead. And he did whatever he could to help him. And said, and then made provisions for him on the next day. And what that symbolizes, what this shows us, is that we can't just think that, oh, just because I buy you a soda today, don't mean that you're not going to need something tomorrow. But just because I help you one time, that's it. No. But he stayed right there with them. And he made sure that he was okay before he left them. And this is, look at this. He says, midway through 35, he says, take care of them. And whatever more you spend, when I come again, I will repay you. And then Jesus closes it out. And so which of these three do you think was neighbor to him and who fell among the thieves? That in the Great Commission in Matthew 28, Jesus commissions not only his disciples, but he commissions his church to go throughout the ends of the earth, teaching and preaching and spreading the word. And we are called to go. That we've tried waiting on them to come to us. It didn't work out very well.
All right.
But it's time for us to go to where they are. Go and reach them. And we just got to show love. And that's what all of this is about. It's showing God's love. You may not know how do you show God's love? Well, if you think about it, you can just reciprocate what God has done for you. How God opened up doors. How when God, look at all of this, it's just an example of what Christ did.
All right.
Look at this. This man was stripped, his clothing, he was beaten, and he was half dead. And somebody who he didn't know came down and saw him in the state that he was in, had compassion on him, and decided to not only to take care of him, but to restore him. And that's the same thing Christ did. That when we were at our worst, and when we were at a point in our lives, as far as mankind, to be able to get back to God, that there was no way for us to do it. That God says that I'm going to go, I see the state that they're in. And the only thing that can get them back to me is me.
Right.
So Christ came through 42 generations, hung on an old rugged cross, died, but rose again early that Sunday morning with all power in his hands. And that is how we show God's love.
Oh, yeah.
By reciprocating what God has done for us. When we get down, and when we make mistakes, and when we are wounded and when we're hurt, God doesn't leave us alone. He doesn't cast us aside. He doesn't walk on the other side of the street. No. As we talked about with that missing lamb, what did the shepherd do? He went and found that sheep, put it across his shoulders, and brought it back. And that's how we got to treat those who come into the fold. That we got to pick them up. And sometimes we may have to carry them on our shoulders. But here's the thing. That sometimes, as we may have to pick up them and carry them on our shoulders, but sometimes it may be us that we need to be picked up and carried on somebody else's shoulders. And that is what it means to reach the one, to treat the one, know how to treat them. So what? They may not look like we look. So what? So what? My story may not be your story. So what? I don't have the hurt and the pain that you have. That doesn't make me better, and it doesn't make anybody else even any worse. But when we can learn, and that's what's wrong with the church today, is when we can learn how to love somebody who may not fit our prototype of a member. And just because, so what, they just came from the club. Who cares? Because I can, never mind.
All right.
Because we all have a word. We all have a past tense. And you never know, that person that may be coming from the club may be the next deacon.
All right.
You never know, that person that may be coming from the club could have probably one of the best voices you've ever heard.
Amen.
That one that came from the club may be the one who financed building whatever we need to build.
Yeah.
And you never know, the one coming from wherever they're coming from, before we decide to try to cast them out, we need to probably take a real good look in the mirror
Amen.
and be honest and say, how can I cast somebody out for what they've done when God didn't cast me out
Oh, yes.
for what I've done?